Hey guys, I hope everybody's doing well. I really miss you guys. I really miss school. I wish we were there doing this together, but I know that we can't. So we'll just do the best we can. We are in chapter 14 in our textbook, which is about the Middle Ages. And during the Middle Ages, I'm going to be doing this whole lesson with you guys. The bubonic plague is going to strike. And you heard a little bit about it during my What's That Thing activity. But I'm going to give you some more background information on it. So, the bubonic plague started in China, and it began to spread because people were using Silk Road. And remember, Silk Road was this massive trading route that went through Asia. It began in China and it went all the way through Asia, and then it cut down into Europe, and then it crossed even over Europe towards Africa. And so people, traders, would move back and forth through that Silk Road, up and down Silk Road, and they would only travel to a certain point, and then they would wait there for a trader to come from the opposite direction. They would meet, they would exchange goods, and then they would each return back to their beginning spot and drop stuff off to a different person that was waiting. So there was this constant person that was going in between spots. They were called middlemen. And so anyway, in these bags of goods and these packages ended up carrying the disease, right, back into different countries. So where it began was in China with what they believe was called a camel caravan. It was a bunch of camels that were used in transporting goods down Silk Road. And so the bacteria itself that caused bubonic plague was called Yersinia pestis. And it comes from flea saliva. Now, spit, right? Flea spit. A lot of people over historical time have believed that the bubonic plague came from rats. And that's actually false. It did not come from rats, it came from fleas. But rats are kind of, I don't want to say they're dirty creatures because they really take good care of keeping themselves clean. You're going to hear about that in what I'm going to be sharing with you. But they oftentimes have fleas that are on them. And so the fleas are infected. They get on the rats for the warmth and the blood that the rat has, and then the rats scurry all over. This is a real issue in the Middle Ages in Europe with like a rat problem. You're going to hear more about that in this chapter. But they would jump off, the fleas would jump off of the rats and they would jump onto people. They would jump onto other animals like farm animals, cows and pigs and horses and things like that. And then in this trading up and down Silk Road, they would be fleas would be inside bags of grain, rice, whatever. They would get in there. Their saliva would get on the grain, on the rice, on the oat, whatever it was. And then people would get that grain, they would purchase it and eat it, not knowing that fleas had been in the bag and gotten their saliva on the food. I know it's so disgusting. All right. So bubonic plague spread that way. So because people think that rats are really the cause of bubonic plague, and they're not the cause, but they are a huge carrier. Okay, so what you have to understand is most people don't have fleas on them. If you had a flea on you, you would know it. But a lot of people go through areas at that time where rats had been. Okay, and that's how they were subjected to it and didn't even know it back then. They started to pick up on it, and I'll tell you about that later. But I thought that it would be fun for us to read this book together. I know I'm going to read to you. And I know you guys are big kids and you're almost seventh graders. I totally get it. But I'm going to tell you, when I was in college, one of my professors said, "Hey, everybody, I'm going to read this book to you." And so it's going to be just like we're in like little kindergartners, but we're going to do it. And it was like one of the greatest things ever. You're never too old to be read to a kid's book. Okay. So I'm going to read this book, not the whole thing all the way through. That is just too much for you guys to have to sit and listen, but I'm going to read a little bit from this book several times a week and I will post it for you guys. This is a nonfiction book, meaning it's not a made up story. It's this guy who was absolutely terrified of rats. And he decided that maybe one way he could get rid of being so afraid of rats was to do some research on them and find out some interesting stuff. and that maybe it would make him feel a little bit better about rats. But what I like about this book, it has some really cool stories. Some of them are really disgusting. You're going to love it. But he talks about the bubonic plague. And so, we don't want to just learn about the bubonic plague. I know you want to learn about the bubonic plague, and I'm going to tell you all that stuff, but there are things in here you don't even know you want to know because they're so crazy. So I thought today with, you know, the weekend is coming and people like to try to figure out creative ways to get food that they can take out and stuff. I know my family does on the weekends. So I thought this would be a good time to tell you about rats and food. All right, so let's do this. So it says, throughout history, people have eaten rodents as a delicacy. Roman emperors served their guests roasted dormice dipped in honey and baked and stuffed with pork. Oh, doesn't that sound yummy? Um, on the American frontier, pioneers found possum and squirrel a treat. In some states, people still do. South American Indians ate roasted guinea pigs. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for those of you who have guinea pigs. Um, many centuries before the Europeans reached the New World, and they still do. The World Health Organization, an agency in the United Nations, reports that 7 million guinea pigs are sold as food in Peru each year. The ancient Chinese called rats household deer. To them, rats were as tasty as deer flesh or venison. My dogs are wrestling. Hang on a second. Okay, sorry, now they're sad. Okay. The ancient Chinese called rats household deer, and to them, rats were as tasty as deer flesh or venison. Rats are still eaten in certain parts of China. While exploring the outdoor market in the city of Shanghai, I saw caged rats for sale, and these were not street or sewer rats described as filthy by a dealer who spoke broken English, but instead they were specially raised for the market. In certain places, rats cost more than pork or chicken. A pound of rat can be nearly twice the price a pound of beef. See, we just don't see this the same way that other people around the world do. I'm kind of glad for that. I don't know. Let's keep going. Restaurants in China claim marvelous powers for rat meat. If you have white hair and eat rat regularly, it will turn black, said an owner's daughter. And if you're going bald and you eat rat every day, your hair will stop falling out. A lot of people around here feed rat to a small child who doesn't have much hair, and the hair grows better. I don't know. As in China, rat is a popular dish in certain parts of Mexico. Boiled in a soup, grilled over an open pit, or mixed in a stew, rats are a delicacy, sweeter than chicken, fans claim. These are not ordinary gutter rats, but grain-eating country rats. Farmers catch them to sell in the town market. French chefs, famous for their savory dishes, have various recipes for rat. The famous Leroux cookbook includes one for grilled rat Bordeaux style. Bordeaux is a famous place and the headquarters in the French wine trade. This bustling seaport has hundreds of deep stone cellars where wine is stored in wooden barrels until bottled and shipped overseas. Rats live in these cellars, often lapping up spilled wine. If a rat laps up too much wine, it becomes an alcoholic rat. Such rats are supposed to be tastier than ordinary rats. I'll take their word for it. The cook first skins the rat, making sure to remove its stomach and intestines. After that, the cook brushes it with a thick paste of olive oil and crushed shallots, a type of onion. Finally, he grills the rat until tender. Rat, says an expert, has a slightly musky taste that is not unpleasant. Those who have eaten rat prepared this way compare it to rabbit. All right. Grilled rat Bordeaux style is considered a delicacy. In West Africa, however, rats have become a key part of the diet, almost a necessity of life. Several types of rat, including the cane rat, which lives in sugarcane fields, and the common house mouse, are eaten. According to a report in the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, rats and mice make up over 50% of the meat eaten in some parts of the country of Ghana. For example, during a two-year period, more than 258,000 pounds of cane rat meat alone were sold in just one market in the city of Accra. A local cane rat recipe calls for skinning the animal and splitting it lengthwise. Fry until brown and mix in a mixture of butter and peanut oil. Cover with water, add tomatoes or tomato puree. Hot red peppers and salt. Simmer until the rat is tender and serve with rice. Doesn't that sound delicious? Okay, so eating rat meat is rich in protein, and no other creature can live without the right proteins in its diet. So, what this goes on to say is that some experts in the World Health Organization believe that if we would open up our minds to eating rat meat, that we could potentially solve world hunger because the rat population is so incredible, and it reproduces at such a crazy rate that if we would consider that, we really could feed a lot of people who don't have food. So before we cut this fun story off today, I thought I would share with you a couple of really good recipes because I know, we're shut down and you might be looking for something new to try. All right, around the world, rats on the menu. Some restaurants feature rat meat, the jialu or super rat in Chinese. It has a long menu. Among its choice dishes are rat with chestnut and duck, lotus seed rat stew, black bean rat, deep fried lemon rat, rat soup with potatoes and onions, braised rat with roasted pork and garlic, snakes and rat, and a pair of rats wrapped in lotus leaves. Another place, the highest ranking wild flavor restaurant, features dishes with these exotic names: mountain rat soup, spicy and salty mountain rat, simmered mountain rat with black beans. I'm sure if you want to put that on your vacation list of places you'd like to go and have a meal, you should write that down before this ends. Um, but, I think that this is probably the best part of this story today that I'm sharing with you. People eat a lot of weird things, and we think about rats and not wanting to eat rats, and it sounds really, really gross. But we, as a world population, have eaten some really crazy, gross things. So let's look at some other things that people have eaten. People, the saying goes, can get used to anything. Here's a partial list of foods people have relished over centuries. All right. Chocolate covered ants. I know you guys have heard of that. Beetle grubs, which is really gross. Cockroaches, vulture intestines, blue jay stomachs. Like, how many of those do you have to feel like you have something to eat? It's got to be tiny. Even tinier, hummingbird tongues. How weird. Okay. Sheep eyes, earthworms. Our old principal before Mr. McPherson came, he used to have this challenge that he would do with students, and if they made the challenge, he would eat worms at lunchtime. Grossest thing in the world. So I know for a fact people have eaten earthworms. All right, flies in honey sauce. Dog, cat, and horse. I'm really sorry about that one. And the worst one I think I've ever heard of that was in this list. I know a lot of you don't like mushrooms to begin with, but these mushrooms are the worst. Mushrooms marinated in urine. Yes, I said that. Pee. Mushrooms soaked in pee. I just don't understand when somebody said, I really like these mushrooms, but what will make them taste even better? If we soaked them in our own pee. People are crazy, and now maybe you think I would rather try rat than do that. I don't know. It's just an idea. Anyway, if you like this crazy rat story, come back for more. I'll have more stories next week. Till then, talk to you later, guys.